since Dasab mentioned 7 years of President Xi Jinping in a small town from where he started, it is also very important to know that two of the top leaders, Deng Xiaoping and President Xi, their fathers were purged and they were actually reinstated afterwards. So there is also learning in that yes, you go through hardships, you go through difficulties, but then you prove your merit and you can come back again and lead a nation like Deng Xiaoping did, completely change the direction in which China is going now, and we see a very, very strong leader in President Xi Jinping. I would now like to request S.M. Hali, who has written 6 books on China and a lot about the Chinese leadership. So over to you, Mr. Hali.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Director, ladies and gentlemen, fellow panelists. I have an emotional attachment to the Comsec University because my younger son is a graduate of this particular university. He went on to do his MPhil from George Mason University in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, he did his PhD from Wuhan, and so did his wife. I've been asked to talk about some of my studies on poverty alleviation, the miracle of the century which China has achieved. First of all, let me share with you that my first visit to China was in 1974 as a young pilot officer of the Pakistan Air Force. And then I continued going there for many, many years till I retired, and I took up journalism and writing as a career and have made numerous trips. In fact, the number of trips do not matter, but my experience is vast because I have visited nearly every nook and corner of China. I have seen China when it was in the developing stage, and I have seen it develop. I have tried to translate it, my experiences, into books. My first book came in 2016, China's Secrets, China's Success. How China transformed itself in the last 40 years. The next was Gleaming Gems of Chinese Culture. The next was on President Xi Jinping, The Road to Leadership. And the latest one, which was launched just 3 days back, and Ambassador Nahmana was one of the reviewers, is 100 years of the Communist Party of China. Both my sons studied in the USA, and one of them, as I mentioned, also studied in China. So I asked my younger son what was his experience. He said, when I was studying in Washington, D.C., the Chinese students who were with me, they were the most dedicated and hardworking, and it was extremely difficult to compete with them because they were always putting their heart and soul into their studies. So I asked him, what about your experience of studying in George Mason University and HUST in Wuhan? He said the difference was that although in the George Mason University, in his particular department, that was public policy, there were 4 Nobel laureates. But the American professors used to teach you, and then they used to leave you to do whatever you like. Your success, your failure was your business. But he says in HUST, where he also was exposed to 4 Nobel laureates, the difference was that the Chinese professor used to hold your hand, guide you through every step of research and study, and used to treat your success, or God forbid failure, as his personal experience. And he was more like a father figure, and he says the amount of attention I received from my Chinese professors was remarkable. So, Ambassador Riaz, as well as Engineer Akram Sheikh, mentioned the importance of education. And one of the methods by which the Chinese government or the Communist Party of China has managed to eradicate poverty is by giving full attention to education. While I was researching for my book, 100 Years of Chinese Communist Party, I obviously studied very deeply about the aspect of eradication of poverty. And I realized that a formal strategy was adopted. The Communist Party of China did make mistakes, despite its resolve to serve the community, to raise the standard of living. Of course, in their eagerness, they made mistakes like the Great Leap Forward, like the Cultural Revolution. But the important thing was that they were willing to learn from their mistakes and apply a course correction so that the path to eradicating poverty could be achieved. When President Xi Jinping came to power in 2013, he resolved to continue the space forward and the Centennial goal, which had already been set, the first Centennial goal of eradicating absolute poverty by the end of year 2020 or by 2021, which happens to be the 100th centenary of the formation or foundation of the Chinese Communist Party, was actually achieved 6 months in advance. And how it was done is that this strategy which was adopted was enforcing the people to stand on their own feet, not by giving out alms, not by giving them stipends, or not by giving them scholarships. There is an old Chinese proverb which says that you can give a starving man a fish to eat and he will not starve for one day. But if you teach him how to fish, he will not starve for the rest of his life. And therein lies the secret, and that is the secret of the Belt and Road Initiative. That is the secret of the CPEC, that infrastructures are being built. The nations which are dependent are being provided the opportunity to stand on their own feet so that they do not remain dependent on others. And that is exactly what was done in the Chinese society. I visited the Tibetan administrative region. I've spent a lot of time in Xinjiang, which has been a hotbed of conspiracy and insurgency and extremism and terrorism. But all this has been turned around because the Chinese Communist Party decided to find out what is the root cause of poverty, what is the root cause of unrest, what is the root cause of separatism, extremism and terrorism. And then it decided to undo that. And I am an eyewitness of how the Uyghur community, which was once a downtrodden and backward society, because the eastern provinces of China had risen tremendously, but the western region had remained backward. They were permitted and given the opportunity to come at par with each other. I have seen how the children of the Uyghurs have been admitted into institutions where they are being given free education, to the middle school, to the high school, the opportunity to learn science, technology and languages, and to compete, get into universities and come and serve in these projects which have been provided by the Belt and Road Initiative and so many other things. I have seen how in the Tibetan region, the old pastoral settings, cattle, horses have been provided to the people so that they can eke out a living. there is so much talk about the ethnic minorities, and there are more than 55 of them. But they have been allowed to retain their old traditions, to earn from their traditional culture, as well as they have been provided the opportunity to come into the mainstream. 2020 was a year of the COVID. But amidst this adversity, also there was opportunity. Because China not only showed the world how you can combat a pandemic, but it used the pandemic in taking the leadership in providing the health preserving equipment, and the impoverished people were allowed to participate in the manufacture of these face masks, the body suits, and so many other things, and they were given extra bonuses. And at the end of the day, we have seen that this miracle has occurred. There are naysayers in the West. There are critics in the West who claim that this cannot be sustained. The regional director of the World Bank, Martin Reiser, who's stationed in Beijing, also raised this point that China has achieved this, but will it be able to sustain it? The point is that this is not a whimsical decision or operation. It has been very well thought out, and the eradication of poverty is not based upon a dog and pony show, but it is based upon a very, very deep-rooted strategy by which the people will continue to be empowered so that their newfound status in the society, where they are a moderate society with middle income groups, and of course they are marching toward the second Centennial goal of 2049. These people, the Chinese people, especially the impoverished people, will be able to meet and sustain the quality of life now they come to enjoy. I wish the people of China the very best of luck. Heartiest congratulations to the Communist Party on achieving 100 years, and I pray that it continues to serve the Chinese people for years to come. But more importantly, I hope the friendship between Pakistan and China, which is based upon a very strong edifice, goes stronger, goes from strength to strength. But what the previous speakers have spoken before me, I would like to quote from William Shakespeare, in which the King of Denmark gives an advice to his son Hamlet. The friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. So that is what we should do with China. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The two words that really stand out from your presentation is course correction and self-reliance. Very important. Last but not least, may I request Mr. Talachavi to come and share his views on the topic. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank organizers of this symposium for having me here and speak about Centennial goals of China. I'm standing here with the disadvantage of being the obvious disadvantage of being the last speaker, because some of the points have been covered, but I'll just make few pointers to make my point. We are in love with phrases. Like these days we are in love with the phrase learning from China. So since I come from a research institute, I asked my colleagues at the institute, so what should we learn from China? And how should we learn from China? Or just and learn from China by heart, and what to do with that, how to do that. So I think this phrase like higher than mountains and deeper than seas and sweeter than honey and game changer and all that. So I think we need to do something very practical, very pragmatic to realize what we really want to do and what we need to learn from China. I just did a little research. Since when you talk of Centennial goals, it is China's Communist Party which comes into mind, because it's China's Communist Party's driven agenda goals. So there's something should be talked about China's Communist Party, since this is 100 years of China's Communist Party celebrations. So there are many webinars and seminars, and when I praise CPC in various discourses, some of democratic friends object to my assertions. So 95 million members party is something unique in the world. If you go to the book Halisa has just published on China's Communist Party, you would know that China's Communist Party is just like civil services of Pakistan. They have a very structured formats of training, of operations, of induction, of selection on various slots, and that's very deliberate, and it's very well thought out structure that they have formed. So if they have been able to achieve the first Centennial goal of becoming a prosperous country, so it was China's Communist Party which actually helped China achieve those goals. And of course, I'll mention the problem also, challenges that China faced when going for the second Centennial objective, to build a modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced and harmonious. Now, we see CPC struggle and achievement actually went through 4 phases. The first phase was that it actually waged heroic struggle and brought the Chinese nation back to life of a nation. Then it carried out arduous exploration to build socialist country from scratch, and of course the various panelists spoke about various issues that China faced during the long struggle. They stuck to their agenda, and they did build a socialist country. They were very flexible too, and when we say this, they did display strategic foresight and strategic flexibility in leading the Chinese people to advance prosperity as the nation. Come 18th National Congress in 2012, when President Xi Jinping took over, I think China from then on pursued comprehensive strategy, implemented new development philosophy, and accelerated modernization of governance. Now, I'll just mention about one achievement of China, because when you say you have achieved first goal, a Centennial goal, so there are many things that China has to expect, but I'll just mention about poverty alleviation. Just to give you a data, in 1978, China's GDP stood at around 149 billion, just slightly higher than India's 137 billion, and US 2.3 trillion. In 2020, China's GDP reached 101 trillion yuan, that is $15 trillion, nearly 6 times that of India, and 70% of that of US $20 trillion. Now look at the huge leap that China has made in just 40 years time. China, as some of the speaker has also already mentioned, that they achieved poverty eradication goal 10 years before UN 2030 agenda in 2020. Lifted 770 million people out of poverty since reforms and opening up. Now, when we talk of learning from Chinese experience, I was just studying the model of poverty alleviation. You know, Chinese employed 500,000 poverty alleviated officials to go into the remote areas, go into the poverty-stricken regions, and work on a model which was very well thought out. And there was, you know, when I said that there's a very structured and there's a, you know, reporting system in the CPC. So 500,000 officials were involved in the this poverty alleviation process, and they did it. And the China is perhaps the only country which could claim that they have been able to eradicate absolute poverty. So no other country could claim this, make this big claim. Since I talked about the achievement, like as honorable panelists also said, China has challenges till 2049 because the world has changed. China has problem. The world is now waken up to what China is doing. So I think the problems that China is likely to face in times to come is going to be climate change, structural reforms. Now we talk of sustainability when you go to the Western literature written on China. They say these reforms that China has made in China, they are not sustainable. So this is going to be a challenge for China to sustain this reform process. And of course, economic and social development. Of course, regional and global politics will also be a challenge for China to cope with, because in the wake of latest situation in Afghanistan, and where the world, led by the US, has also decided to take on China to, you know, maybe change of heart or change of strategy. So China will have, you know, tough time. But I'm sure with the kind of zeal, with the visionary leadership, and the kind of implementation strategy that China has, they will succeed in resolving all these issues. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Shabir sir. Well, the establishment of New China and CPC are synonymous with each other. I don't think that one can imagine New China without the CPC. So there's they go hand in hand and they go together. We are actually very short of time, so I wonder if we have time to take a few questions. Tahir sir, do we have time to take a few questions? So anybody, would you like to ask questions from the? Yes, please. And please identify yourself and also identify the panelist that you would like.
My name is Tahir. I am a student of UPAC. I appreciate this being learning from the past, but if we talk about Pakistan's context, it should rather be why.
Could you please speak a little louder or maybe take off your mask? I don't know. Okay.
The first session is very informative. It's about learning from the past, but I think it should have been this session, learning from the past is very informative, but I think it should have been why we are unable to learn from the past. My question is, anyone from the panelists can answer. Can anyone name 3 major barriers barriers to Pakistan's poverty in the context of Pakistan?
I think Dr. Akram Sheikh in his opening remarks answered that question very, very well. I don't know if you were there to listen to his remarks.
Yeah, I was there, but in terms of
so who would you like to take that question up?
anyone from the panel.
So anybody who'd like to answer? Ambassador Riaz Mohammad Khan? So would you like to answer that question? 3 reasons why Pakistan could learn from China.
Well, it's not a question of Pakistan failing to learn from China. I I think Pakistan has failed in many things in United Nations Building itself. Pakistan has failed in education. Pakistan has failed in education. Pakistan has failed in economic development. We are doing very well, but from 1974 onwards, after nationalization, which was a disastrous experiment, our economy has been going down. Then lastly, I would say, politics. Our policies have not been stable. Sometimes people say that bad policies, if they are consistent, if they are stable, they do much more benefit than if you keep on changing policies which in themselves may be having some merit, but if you keep on changing. So we have not been changing, we have not been consistent with our policies, and it's very understandable. You look at, for example, your politics. Every 2-3 years, there is a change of government. Then, the moment there is a new government, the first thing that you learn is that the new government is trying to blame the old government. The older people who are out there basically somehow they are quite keen to get rid of the new government. So we remain in this kind of a vicious circle. There is no focus on the real issues which the country is facing. And the real issues are the same that everybody knows. There is no rocket science in this. You have to educate your people, and you don't have to make them learn Arabic. You have to make them learn science and technology and skills so that they can be useful citizens of this country, rather than, making them learn Arabic and other languages. So let's be very, very clear about these things. Similarly, the question of agriculture. Agriculture is key. Water management is key. And what I was trying to say was that these are sectors in which you can generate huge employment. And it is better to employ people rather than to give them loan. So this is very, very important. So basically, you see, we are unfortunately, regardless of so many universities, so many institutions, we are still a very, very confused people. And I had mentioned about one thing, that we have not yet been able to distinguish between modernity and westernization. We basically consider Maghrebian or modern the same thing. Chinese, you can ask the Chinese friends who are here, they have two very distinct words for that. There is no confusion for Chinese intellectual as what is modernity and what is westernization. They go for modernity. For modernization was the slogan given by Mr. himself. So I have these comments.
Mr. Hani would like to.
I just want to add a little bit. During the height of the Kargil crisis, I was still in service, and I was serving with the Air Chief Marshal PQ Navy, and our then Prime Minister visited China, and the Chinese leadership advised the Pakistani Prime Minister that why are you indulging into skirmishes and conflicts with India over Kashmir? Support the Kashmir issue, but build yourself economically. And then the Chinese leadership gave their own example that look at Taiwan. We can conquer Taiwan in a twinkling of an eye, but we will not do that. Instead, we will build ourselves economically to such a stage that Taiwan will one day itself beg to be rejoining the mainland. And same goes for you, that you should build yourself economically that one day Kashmir will fall in your lap. But unfortunately, we choose to ignore such seditious suggestions.
We have another question there.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kalpana Hafiz Sahaba, for inviting me, and thank you so much, Dana's Study Center. And it's wonderful to learn from the eminent speakers. But
Would you kindly identify yourself?
my name is Munir Ahmed. I'm a journalist and broadcaster and policy advocacy consultant. And I'm learning about CPAC, BRI, and China for last maybe 30 years. When there was no BRI and there was no CPAC, and I had a chance to go to China in 1998 for a research project that was in Ansai, where the Chinese government was giving facilities and incentives to the local community to develop agriculture and horticulture. And that was a wonderful model of where there was one window of patient real terms, and there was no surcharge or no what you call interest on the incentives given to the communities. And perhaps that sort of incentives, and I just, Talasab said they employ like 500,000 workers to eliminate poverty. And we are also having a World Bank funded poverty alleviation and different other initiatives for poverty alleviation. But unfortunately, we have created I call NGO elite.
Could you please come to your question?
But we cannot. My question is, what could be, and recently someone said about education, this single curriculum. My friend said what my son, the books read in grade 5, now he has to read the same sort of syllabus in grade 8 as well. So such kind of confusions and entire chaos and confusion, how we can get out of it? That is my question. Because I could not get any clue how the nation would be taken out of this chaos.
I think I would once again say that Mr. Riaz Muhammad Khan and Dr. Akram Sheikh primarily addressed that concern in detail. So I would urge you to maybe talk to them again during the break time. So could we take another question? Yes.
Hello, this is Nicola from Tahir Report. I'm here with my sister and the CEO from Tahir Report and also the CCC group. So
Okay.
my question is about the PKR devaluation. So I have lived here for last 4 years. When I come to here, the conversion from the CNY to PKR is around 18.5 or 19. But you see today from the CNY to the PKR is around 28. So if you have the property, you keep your money in your bank, but with nothing to do, every year you are losing around 10 to 15%. For the high level people, it's okay. But in Pakistan, you see a lot of poor people here. So how can we keep our currency stable to help the poor people survive and make this country moving faster? This is our one concern for the people. And another concern is about the business here, the private business. Because we do the business with most of the trading entities FOB. But if we do the local business, we have to use the PKR. So you have nothing to do, you only do business after 3 to 5 months, then it's a good.
I have understood your question. Thank you very much. And I would strongly.
I want to that because you have come back from China last year. So I want the Hashimi, Madam Hashimi to answer my question. You have observed in last, I think 1 year in China. You see the currency is stable and the people is living much more comfortable.
Yes, I understand your question, and I would strongly urge you to please participate and wait for the second panel. And we have a lot of experts who will give you a detailed answer to your satisfaction on that question. Ji. Yes, please.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मेरा नाम अब्दुल्ला खान है। मैंने पाक आर्मी के साथ बहुत अमन जरगड़ी बनाया। पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान का जरगड़ी बनाने में से उर्दू में सवाल कर रहा हूँ।
आप जरूर उर्दू में सवाल कीजिए, कोई मुश्किल नहीं।
हमारे आर्मी ने तमाम बॉर्डर को सिक्योर कर दिया और आजकल जो हालात है, हम अभी भी दरअसल साहब का हम बहुत मशहूर है कि हम एक सेमिनार कर रहे गवादर में, क्योंकि बिजनेस हमारे तबाह हो गए। बॉर्डर पे जितनी भी बड़े बड़े बिजनेसमैन बैठे हुए हैं, मैं खुद बैठने हूँ, वहाँ पे मैं जाके रूबरू आए। तो मेरा आप लोगों से गुजारिश है कि मैं एक सेमिनार में करना साहब तो बहुत ताउन कर रहे हैं पेपर पे इन चीज़ों पे, और मैं चीफ एम्बेसडर को लेके जा रहा हूँ गवर्नर। बहुत बड़ा बिजनेस है अफगानिस्तान के साथ, ईरान के साथ, लोग हमारे पाकिस्तान से जा रहा है, बिजनेसमैन लोग। तो मेरे गुजारिश है कि थोड़ा सा बॉर्डर में जो बिजनेस में खासकर गवादर में तो हमने लोग वहाँ पे यानी वहाँ पे आपको मैं बता रहा हूँ, बॉर्डर की वजह से पाकिस्तान जितना सेफ और सिक्योर हो गए आप लोगों को अंदाजा नहीं।
जी,
आर्मी ने
आपका कोई सवाल है तो
सवाल यही है कि कम से कम ये बिजनेस को प्रमोशन करने, उसको थोड़ा सा इश्यूज है उसको हाईलाइट।
जी इंशाल्लाह सेकंड पैनल इसी पे जो है वो तवज्जो देगा, तो आप जरूर दूसरे पैनल में शरीक हुए और आपको आपके सवाल का भी जवाब मिलेगा और आपकी सजेशंस भी सबने यहाँ नोट कर ली हैं। शुक्रिया। आई थिंक वी ऑल द Chinese, yes, yeah, okay.
Okay, now it's fine. Good
Okay.
afternoon, madam, gentlemen. I'm from China Dubai Group Company, CGGC, and today it's my honor to attend this symposium. Frankly speaking, as a Chinese people, and after listening to every gentleman's speech, I feel very proud and more happy to be a Chinese. And today I want to avail this opportunity to ask a question. As one of the gentlemen said, and it is better to teach the people how to fish rather than to give him a fish. And currently a lot of Chinese people, and we are here, we work in Pakistan to build the energy project to build the road. And yes, and I think for a short time it can resolve maybe the transportation problem, the energy shortage problem. But for a long, for a long term, considering of the long term, and I want to ask, what's your expectation and for Chinese company in Pakistan? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the second session is actually concentrating on all these issues, primarily on the economic issues and on the second phase of CPAC, which actually is the heart of the CPAC project, which will actually deliver to the people and provide employment and industrialization for the country. And I think all this will be, we have very eminent experts in this field who will take this up in detail in the next session. So I think we have already overshot the time, so we'll break. And after the tea break, we will meet for the second panel. But I would request all our panelists to kindly join the rector and Dr. Akram Sheikh for a group photo here, please.
I would like to draw your attention that Mr. Sultan Muhammad Hali wants to present his 3 packs of books to in charge China Study Center Dr. Mumtaz Awan as a gesture and token of love. Thank you, sir.